go ahead and use image container and process container to get a series of images that we could go ahead and animate and automatically annotate images, stretch images, and run a whole suite of processes for us. Welcome to SETI Astro. I want to go ahead and start with probably the simplest and most useful or most used one by me for image container. You go ahead and just right click anywhere in the desktop area of PixInsight and click image container. You can reset it if there is anything in here, and it's just blank. The top is where we're actually going to put our views or files, and we won't really need to worry about anything down here in this container option right now. So to select our views, there's a button for add views. We'll go ahead and select these active ones that I have up here, and you can just double click to add or remove a particular view. You hit OK, your views will come up, and drag the instance off to the desktop again. Now I really utilize this for my pre-processing, so I'll have all my channels there, my image container, and then I could go ahead and run through just a suite of pre-processing steps. Gradient removal, I have the Grexpert script saved, and you could either drag and drop directly from that, or if you do have a script save, you can open it up and drag and drop onto the image container again. Now it will go ahead and run the scripter process on all the image you have in the image container. Once it's done, then you could just move on to the next. In my case, I would go to Blur Exterminator, and it will go ahead and just run through all of them. So this is very useful on tasks that may take a long time, like some of these AI-powered tools, especially if you don't have GPU-enabled acceleration. But even on large mosaics with acceleration, some of these processes can take a lot, especially if you have a lot of channels to work with. So image container for me is really great in this pre-processing stage where you just want to kind of run through a suite of some of the tools in your tool belt. The other item that may help your workflow is a process container. Now this will be a container to hold a sequence of processes, and it's important to note that it really is processes. If you have something that's trying to write one item to another via pixel math, it won't be able to contain it, since it's going to be referencing potentially images that no longer exist. Process container is very clunky. In fact, both image container and process container are very clunky. I don't think PixInsight's updated either of them in 8 or 9 years. It's their intention that people code scripts, and I don't know if you've tried coding Java in PixInsight yet. It's not fun. So I think they could improve these a little bit. But let's go ahead and look at the most unintuitive thing in this entire piece of software, and that's creating a process container. The first thing you're going to have to do is just have a single image open and run the processes in order that you want done to it. In my case, I'm going to use gradient correction, blur exterminator, star exterminator, then noise exterminator, in that order as pre-processing steps that I would do essentially every time, right? So this is why you would use a process container, so you have a kind of a one-click means of just doing those steps over and over again. So I'll start applying them one after another, and we'll come back when those are done. Once they're done running, I do have an extra star image here that I'll just minimize and put it aside for now. Will come the most unintuitive part of making a process container. Down here in the History Explorer, you'll have a list of all your views currently, and the view that you did all your processes on will have them all listed out here. So it'll have all the numbers that were utilized within each process such that it could be recreated again. And you'll go ahead and grab that blue new instance triangle and drag that over to the gray desktop in PixInsight. And then we can go ahead and rename that to something more meaningful, pre-processing steps. And that is our process container. If you open it up, you'll see that it has all the processes in there that were extracted from the history of that other file. You have your pre-processing steps container, or whatever processes you have in you want in your container. We'll go ahead and make an image container of the views that we want to apply that process container to. So now we have our image container and our processing container. We'll go ahead and just drop our process container right onto the image container. Now that's going to go ahead and do all those steps on all those views, which on some of these, if you have many multiple channels and you're doing AI process steps like RC Astro's Blur Exterminator, Star Exterminator, that may take a good amount of time, especially on large mosaics, or if you're not running GPU acceleration. This is one of those set it and forget it situations where you could just have PixInsight run and take care of all these steps for you while you go get a cup of coffee or something. For me, process container finished running. I have all my additional files now with the stars. And I have all my other corrected files here with all the process steps that I wanted them to have done. I think one thing that doesn't get talked about enough is make sure you save your favorite process icons. You highlight them all, save selected icons, find a good spot to save them, and then all you have to do is double click that to open PixInsight, and it'll open up your blank PixInsight with all your process icons ready to go. Now let's go ahead and do a fun example of image container that actually utilizes saving files and reading files directly from the disk. On my recent image in the red channel, on the reject high, I noticed these diagonals. They didn't move very far over the night of imaging. So I'm assuming they're asteroids, and we can go ahead and have image container annotate all our lights for us with whatever that object is, and then we could make a nice little animation to show our friends and family of an asteroid we caught in our image. So I went ahead and am going to use blink to blink through the images to find the files that I want to utilize to make this animation. And you can see it moving right there. So for me, it's file 1 through 19. It was that night's images. So that's what we want to go ahead and annotate, and we'll make a image out of it. The first thing to check when doing a project like this is to make sure that all the functions we want to do actually work with the files as they are. So I pulled up just that image 1. I'll do a quick screen transfer function on it, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to annotate the image. So annotation comes up just fine. That means it has an astrometric solution. So we can go ahead and get our image container together, and then we can go ahead and do a unleak stretch to permanently make this stretch on those images, and then we'll tell it to annotate everything, and then we can go ahead and make a animation of it. So for this image container, we'll start with the blank desktop, reset our image container, and we're going to have to load the files themselves into this upper section. So there's a button, add files, and we want to go ahead and find where those files were. For me, they're in the registered folder 1 through 19. So go ahead and add all those files in there. And then we want an output directory where it's going to save everything. You can save it right back into the same folder it was in, or maybe you want to make a new folder for your asteroid hunt that we're going to go on here. The other thing to do down in the output template is this is how PixInsight will actually name the files. There's a great little template here if you click the question mark on what all these different templates include and how to look at them, and then there's some examples at the bottom. This is also very useful if you want to convert a whole bunch of your XISF images or fit images into JPEGs is one way to go about doing this in here too. This is this example down here. But we'll just go ahead and get rid of that date and time. That's not very meaningful to us, and we want to call asteroid hunt, and then the file name and the file extension. Unfortunately, this button here does nothing. They've never fixed that in the 8 or 9 years that people have complained about it. It's the never overwrite output files. It really should be never overwrite input files, and whether it's checked or not, it will always create a new image or a new file for you. So that can be a little cumbersome if you're doing multiple iterations of image container to create these files. But we'll go ahead and make the image container now of those files that we just added. Now remember, you can get all fancy with these and make a whole process container if you want to do gradient correction and blur exterminator and noise exterminator, and then maybe you already had a set of hyperbolic stretches down as its own process that you do on every image. You can make your own process container and then drop that on the image container, and it'll do that to all the files. But for right now, I do have just a piece of pixel math here by Bill Blanchon, just to do an unlinked stretch on all those images, which will essentially do the same thing as if you ran STF and histogram transformation on them. It will go ahead and run that on all the images in that container. Now here's the bit where PixInsight really shows how clunky it is with these image containers. Now here's all our new files that generated, where it did the stretching on them. But our image container still contains all the original file names. So we're going to go ahead and have to uncheck all of them with the folder with the red X, and then purge the disable items. And then we'll go ahead and add all those new files that it just made. And in this case, we just want the same file name and extension. Drag and drop to recreate the image container, and you'll have to delete the old one. Like I said, this is where it really rears its ugly head and how clunky and unupdated this is, as it's, you know, almost decade-old scripting at this point. Now here's the bit where PixInsight really shows how clunky it is with these image containers. Now here's all our new files that generated, where it did the stretching on them. But our image container still contains all the original file names. So we're going to go ahead and have to uncheck all of them with the folder with the red X, and then purge the disable items. And then we'll go ahead and add all those new files that it just made. And in this case, we just want the same file name and extension. Drag and drop to recreate the image container, and you'll have to delete the old one. Like I said, this is where it really rears its ugly head and how clunky and unupdated this is, as it's, you know, almost decade old scripting at this point. Another thing that's a little clunky in PixInsight, if you want to run certain scripts that need astrometric solutions, you just can't open the script and save an instance of it. You have to have one of the files open such that it could pull the astrometric solution from it, and then you could save the instance. So I have open one of the images we have just created. You can see it's all ready with its stretch on it. And now we'll go ahead and go annotate the image. I think we can go ahead and leave the name stars, the Messier objects, NGC. These are all great to have in there, but most importantly is your asteroids for my case. If you don't have the databases, they are available in PixInsight's download area. If you've never added the asteroid databases, they come in as these XEPH files. You'll have to add a layer, that green plus, find custom XEPH files and hit OK. And then in the middle area will be a spot where you can do a directory search, where you tell it what folder you have saved all those files to. There's also a magnitude filter if you don't want anything deeper than, say, an 18 or 17, depending on how much aperture your telescope has in order to collect photons from asteroids. Once you have all the objects selected in annotate image that you want, instead of hitting OK, drag that new instance off, because this is what we're going to use to have the image container do all this on all our images for us. Just to make sure it is highlighting the object you want, you may want to go ahead and click OK on that one particular image. And for us, yep, there's the asteroid. It's 814 Taurus at a magnitude 14.69. So now let's go ahead and tell the image container to run it on all our saved images. Now for each image, it's going to go ahead and search through the various asteroid catalogs and everything else you may have had checked in the annotate image, and resave the files for us. This is what's great about these image containers, to do all the hunting through the asteroid files. It took over 20 minutes for all those images to get properly annotated. Now it should have saved all the files for us, and you can see it redid them. It did not make duplicates. So what I like doing is just filtering on the date modified to give us the latest ones will be all the ones that I just finished on. Go ahead and run blink. We had them in the asteroid hunt. Here's all our files from the date modified filter. So we got blink up. We don't need the STF. We might as well go ahead and zoom in here and just make sure it runs how we were expecting. And there's our asteroid moving along. So now what we could do is actually have it crop all the files and convert them to JPEGs for us to make our animation. Again, the clunky bit with image container, we gotta get rid of all those files and add in the brand new files that image container had just ended up making from the annotations. There's all the new ones, and we don't want an extension, we're going to want .jpg. Now that's going to go ahead and convert our files to JPEGs, as well as our dynamic crop that we're going to apply to them. So I opened one of the annotated images to get our process for our dynamic crop. Here's our dynamic crop, and depending on what you actually want to see in the image, just go ahead and crop the area, and then again pull the process off to the side, and then we're going to go ahead and drag it onto our image container. Again, it has the JPG format, and then this is going to come up on all of them. A trick to prevent it from doing all those pop-ups, and that I totally forgot to do before I dragged and dropped, is you can go ahead and edit the instance source code if you're really so inclined. There is a code down here for no GUI messages. If you change that to true, it'll prevent those pop-up messages from coming through, but that may be a little beyond the scope of this video. And now you can see we have a whole bunch of JPEGs of all the files that are annotated. We can just open one up and double check. There's our nice crop, and it's a JPEG. We can go ahead and load that in whatever your favorite photo to video software may be, and create an animation to go ahead and share with your friends and family. I hope you found this video useful, and you learned some tips and tricks to using image container and process container. If you do have any questions on that, be sure to leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe.